And Canada saw, if you want to step up into the big leagues with President Trump, you better be prepared to play. It looks like they are not, because the Ontario Premier already dropped his 25% tariff on electricity after having a bold threat to shut off electricity.
This is a new low for the Liberal Party of Canada. Are we surprised? Not really. Misinformation, though, is something that they accuse everybody else of doing, and they say we need to censor you because we're the only party that doesn't do misinformation. No, no, no. We are telling you the truth in full context always. This is going to be eye-opening for you. We're going to be talking Trump tariffs, Canada tariffs, Mark Carney, a lot of juicy stuff today about him, and also some really embarrassing things about him and the Liberals, and all sorts of other stuff that mainstream media simply will not touch. I'm Jasmine Lane. This is Over Opinionated. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment your thoughts down below. Give me a follow on other social media platforms as well. We'll kick this off with the latest updates on the tariff war that Canada, by all accounts, has seemingly declared, though I guess you could argue that Trump was the first one to kind of initiate it. There's a lot of information here.
Together, we will do what we must do to protect Canada's economy. With these most recent tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, the U.S. administration is once again inserting disruption and disorder into an incredibly successful trading partnership and raising the costs of everyday goods for Canadians and American households alike. As of 12:01 a.m. tomorrow, March 13th, 2025, 25% reciprocal tariffs on an additional $29.8 billion of imports from the United States.
Well, I certainly hope that if you need any new electronics, you have gone forth and bought them already, or do today before tomorrow, because as a part of this just under $30 billion retaliation plan, because as of tomorrow, U.S. goods, including computers, sports equipment, and even water heaters are on the tariff list. Now, surely Canada's in a bit of a difficult position, because what do? You have actively, over the last decade, driven investment out of your country. Your taxes are some of the highest in the world. You have actively done everything you possibly could to be completely dependent on the United States and to cancel and block at every opportunity your country's ability to prosper. And, this is just kind of a harsh reality. We had other countries coming to us saying things like, hey, we would love to get your liquefied natural gas. We would love to get all of these things from you. And Canada, for years now, has said, no, we're not going to do that. No business case. No.
I think the strategy is clear. We just need to make sure that we put maximum pressure to defend our jobs, defend our sovereignty, defend our way of living. But meanwhile, as a team negotiating, we need to find off-ramps. And it is just the right thing to do. So we'll do both.
And here's the harsh reality. No matter how unpopular it is, this is just the reality, and we need to face that. I'd far rather be told that than be lied to and misled and sugarcoated in this situation. Because now those same companies, because they wanted that stuff, have gone to other countries in order to get it. So there's all this talk now about we're going to build, baby, build. We're going to go and invest in our economy. Well, they have yet to rescind any of their job-killing policies. They have yet to rescind their high taxes to make us competitive with the United States. They haven't done anything at all except words to say that we're going to be investing in the Canadian economy. There hasn't been any new projects announced, because they can't really do that because they made the decision instead to prorogue Parliament and make sure that Mark Carney was selected and replaced Justin Trudeau. And here's the reality of that. All of those same businesses that once had their sights set on Canada now have a bad taste in their mouth about Canada and are now doing business elsewhere. Let's say we go and get a pipeline in. Great. Yes, that's definitely a good thing. We should absolutely do that for ourselves. Who are we going to sell to, though? Because people overseas are getting their oil from Saudi Arabia and other Arabic nations. People overseas are getting their oil from the United States, and they're getting it from Russia. They're getting it from all of these other places where it's priced lower and they can afford it.
Companies that don't adapt, including companies in the financial system, will go bankrupt without question. But also, there will be great fortunes made along this path, aligned with what society wants. And so provided that, not just the objective is put in place, but some of the climate policies continue to be put in place, not by us, by others, we will have the financial system ready to amplify the effectiveness of those policies and move the country forward.
Given the fact that Mark Carney has been advising the Liberal government for quite some time and has also really made his own wealth on those exact same policies, he's right when he says that there's a lot of money to come with it. But that's not money for the country or the country's future. That's money for people like him who are lobbyists and who are invested in ideological things that it's not what society wants, by the way. It's what you have told them they want because you have created fear over something that doesn't exist in order to get rich. And it's worked because people are stupid.
In Quebec, the highest tax rate for an income of $150,000 or more is 53.3%, more than half of Canadians' incomes they are being taxed on.
So with Canada's carbon emissions and all of our taxes and stupid stuff that we do, how are we going to compete with that? They have 3 other options that have already been working for them. And now they're saying, oh yeah, we're going to change all of that. And suddenly, we're going to build something and we're just going to have so many buyers. Well, that's not how that works because those people already have contracts and deals signed with other nations and other providers. That is just the cold, hard reality. I do think we need to build all of that stuff, but we're not going to recover from this. Our economy is not going to feel that overnight. That's just not how that works.
And you boo them? That's your resistance? You wanted to hide behind them. You wanted to not fund our military because we got America. They're good enough to shed their blood beside ours. That's the Canada we're in now. That. I'll go 51st state. I'll get my 1A and 2A. My kids will have a future. Your kids will have a future. I've been around the world. I've seen what happens. And where this country's going, I don't think we're recovering.
I often call Mark Carney a political career government lobbyist. And while he isn't officially registered as a lobbyist, a lot of his very close affiliations with the Liberal Party, not just in Canada, but others around the globe as well, it's pretty easy to see that the net zero agenda, Brookfield Asset Management, and how rich he has gotten based on his advice that he sometimes gave pro bono, he has absolutely been influencing and shaping government policy at a very elite and high level while not actually registering as a lobbyist.
Mark Carney and his Liberals want Canadians to pay more in taxes. But records show that it's Mark Carney who should be paying more. Leaked documents have revealed that while you were being crushed by unaffordable Liberal taxes, Mark Carney's multi-billion-dollar company was setting up subsidiaries in tax havens around the world to hide their taxes from the Canadian government. That includes 41 subsidiaries in Bermuda, 10 in the British Virgin Islands, 9 in Barbados, 8 in the Bahamas, and many more in places like Malta, Panama, St. Kitts, the Cook Islands, and the Cayman Islands. And those are just the ones we have records for. How many billions of dollars in taxes did Mark Carney hide overseas while calling for your carbon taxes to be raised through the roof? He may be a compulsive liar, but it's time for Mark Carney to come clean and tell the truth to Canadians.
And he has actively pushed for climate regulation benefits that Canada has applied that have hurt our financial sectors. They have been so harmful to oil and gas and natural resources. These are all the things that are key drivers of the Canadian economy. And now this guy's in government? Are you kidding me right now?
We found that 12% of Canadians reported having experienced homelessness at some point in their lives. That's 4.8 million people, equivalent to the entire population of Alberta. More than half of Canadians at the time, 57%, said they were already worried about losing their home if their financial situation were to change. We estimate that over 300,000 people, Canadians, will experience homelessness this year alone.
Mark Carney is Justin Trudeau times 1,000. It is shocking to me that he is in government, but it's not shocking because if you ever listen to the WEF, which Mark Carney is very involved in, he's spoken there actually more than any other political leader in history. And they have been very open about bragging with how much they've penetrated cabinets, bragging about how they need to censor you because it's misinformation and disinformation that are the greatest threats. They brag about how Justin Trudeau had 12 of his ministers at the time that was filmed who were all involved with the WEF. And what is the WEF? It is literally an elite group of billionaire think tanks. That's what it is. And all of those billionaires, Mark Carney included, have investments in these same things, usually around climate or just anti-human as a whole. They all have investments in all of those industries that they profit off of thanks to their government lobbying, whether legally registered as one or not.
You know, today is a difficult day for Canada. It's a difficult day for the industry because of these unjustified tariffs that have been put on. We and my colleagues in the government want to make absolutely clear that we stand foursquare with you.
Who is Mark Carney? A few things. He's not a politician. He's a banker. He has international interests, and he is very, very sympathetic to communist China. As a matter of fact, I would say this guy probably identifies as a communist, though he won't say it out loud. I'll make the case. References available. Some key facts here. Number one, he's a banker, right? He's not a politician. So he was the former head of the Bank of Canada from 2008 to 13. Bank of England, 13 to 2020. He oversaw Brexit. Now, currently, he's a UN Special Envoy on Climate Action and Finance.
Oh, okay.
Pretty sure you can guess what he does there. And no, he's not a member of Parliament. So his background is in international finance in the worst capacity possible. That's bad enough. Scary when you understand that he's a manipulator because he really is very much, I should say likely, allegedly, whatever qualifier I have to say here, a puppet for Beijing.
Good.
We'll get to the Chinese tariffs on Canada right now, which would be the most relevant point, you would think, during the speech. He mentioned President Trump during that speech 11 times, just in that one speech. China, 0.
Ooh.
Everything like maybe like a half point? No, 0, not at all. Even though he did get a special congratulations from China's foreign minister, he has incredibly close ties to the CCP. So let me give you some examples here, references in the description as always. 2017, he met with Xi Jinping in private at Davos. Big fans of Davos here, as China was trying to fight President Trump in a trade war. Okay, 2018, he helped lead 1.4 billion pounds of investment from the UK to support China's Belt and Road Initiative. We've covered that. 2024, he was speaking at a China Development Forum, and he said, it is a good thing that the RMB becomes a global reserve currency.
Oh, really?
And just think about how easily fooled Canadian citizens are. How many people don't care or don't want to hear the truth and investigate and think for themselves. Because Mark Carney, I'm an outsider. Oh, he saved Canada. These ridiculous, outlandish claims that are factually incorrect, that people just regurgitate the CBC talking points of nonstop. Is he really an outsider?
But Mark Carney's going to have to explain why he's doing what he's doing. So I offer no advice on that. But the danger of picking the same old gives a great tee-off point for the Conservatives and lots of narrative for us to push with.
Moving on to Trump tariffs and some of what Kevin O'Leary and other people, including Lutnick, have been saying about this. So we heard that he has a meeting, Lutnick does, with Doug Ford, and the two of them appeared on American television to really break down the situation right now.
The end game here, could you eventually get to a point where there's that you've got a huge economy, you've conjoined, you've merged the economies of Canada and the United States? Can you get to that point, you think?
Well, the best way, the president has said it, the best way to actually merge the economies of Canada and the United States is for Canada to become our 51st state. If they want to merge it, that's how you make it the 51st state. But think about this for a second. Why are American cars made in Canada? Why are they made in Canada? To the president, it just doesn't make sense. Why are American cars made in Canada? Those jobs should be in America. And that's what the president thinks, and that's what he says, and that's what he's going to execute. So the key point is Canada's going to have to work with us to really integrate their economy.
Here is the harsh reality that sometimes is not always fun to hear. Canada as a whole has not been a great country to invest in for a very long time, which is unfortunate and is completely by design and is completely intentional, likely because we could always rely on the Americans being one of our trading partners. So we were able to tax our citizens into death so that we could go and virtue signal and wave our flags around everywhere else as Canada being the most compassionate, welcoming, we're so clean and green economy and country in the world. But with the counter tariffs, and again, this is a tough situation for Canada to be in. I'm curious on your thoughts about this. But after all of this tariff stuff came out, of course, we have new 25% tariffs being imposed today on Canada. We are counter tariffing. So that just makes the Canadian economy as a whole even more difficult to invest in, even more hopeless to invest in. Trump told CEOs in the Business Roundtable on Tuesday that the tariffs were causing more companies to invest in United States factories. And he even said that while, yes, there has been a drop in the stock index over the last month due to some fears from this tariff war that we are in, that he's not too worried about that because he knows that the higher tariff rates and Canada counter-tariffing the way that we are going to be effective at bringing back factories. And I quote, "The higher it goes, the more likely it is they are going to build. The biggest win is if they move into our country and produce jobs. That's a bigger win than the tariffs themselves, but the tariffs are going to be throwing off a lot of money to this country." And I mean, Mark Carney himself even moved his business over to the United States as soon as this threat was made. Why? Because Canada has really high taxes. It's really expensive to live here. Our regulatory sector is just kind of a pain in the A for a lot of big business. Yes, there's absolutely still investments coming into this country, but it's not as ideal of a situation or even remotely competitive with other countries, which is why you also see a lot of other projects delayed and halted, sometimes pulled out completely. I've said this example a number of times. The plant that was going up in Kitimat, BC, which was, I think it was $11 billion. And it had been 10 years of the regulatory process, and they didn't even have shovels in the ground yet, which is why they ended up canceling that project a few months ago.
I've always said this about Trump. Ignore the noise, look for the signal. He talked about it multiple times now. Join the economies. They're not going to sell the country, but if you join the economies, it's the largest economy on earth. China will never catch up because the U.S. is the largest consumer market on earth. And Canada is the richest country on earth of all the things everybody needs every day. So let's stop this crazy stuff, because what really Trump wants is reciprocal tariffs. If you want to sell butter out of Vermont and Quebec, 243% tariff, so that's reciprocal. All the tariffs have to go. Zero tariffs. Erase that border in terms of the economy and join the economies, and everybody's going to do really well.
It's like an arranged marriage.
It should be, because at the end of the day, Canadians and Americans are 95% the same DNA. Everybody's got family on both sides of the border. We're in a little bit of a tiff, Jesse.
Is that what they call it?
A little poo-poo right now.
A little poo-poo?
Because there's an election going on in Canada.
Right.
You got to give them another 60 days to choose a new leader. And the guy will have the same mandate that Trump has, a majority mandate for 4 years. And then let's start negotiating a union of the economy. Can't sell. Listen, what really happened was Trudeau really, for lack of better words, excuse my French, pissed Trump off.
Mm-hmm.
He's gone. He got whacked on Sunday. He is El Morte gone.
Mm-hmm.
He's gone. He's history. Let's forget about him and Freeland, who really made Trump crazy. Those were toxic, dysfunctional relationships. But he's gone. Let's focus on the next 60 days. Let Canada elect a new leader, and let's cut a deal.
And exactly that. I really do believe that is exactly what's going on here. And we have the Liberal Party under Mark Carney doing the exact same nonsense that they were underneath Justin Trudeau. Look at this. They posted this late last night. It says Pierre Poilievre won't stand up to Donald Trump. and Trump's friends know it. Only Mark Carney will stand strong against Donald Trump. The exact same nonsense, just exploiting the situation for their own votes because they know a federal election is coming. According to staffers, by the way, it's expected to be called on either the 17th or 18th.
Are you going to get more from Canada with Pierre Poilievre as the prime minister than you're going to get from Mark Carney? The answer is yes.
But let's watch the full context of this from the party who says that they're the party of truth and the charter, and misinformation is bad, and everybody else except for them does it. Take a look at how unbelievably disingenuous and misleading this is.
Again, if there's a deliverable, great, and force Canada to the wall to get the deliverable. However, all of this is having an impact on domestic politics in Canada. So if you don't like Justin Trudeau and his party, then why exactly are you doing the things that are going to ensure that they remain in power? So before all this trade war stuff, the runaway winner in the Canadian polling was Pierre Poilievre, who's terrific. Pierre Poilievre is the leader of the Conservative Party. He's one of the most articulate conservative leaders of our generation. He's terrific. And he has now fallen behind in the polling to Mark Carney, who's the leader of the Liberal Party in Canada, who will maintain all of the policies of Justin Trudeau, except without the dumb face. So Mark Carney just won the race to succeed Justin Trudeau as Canada's prime minister, and he vows to win the trade war with the United States and President Donald Trump. He's the former governor of the Canadian Central Bank and Bank of England, according to the BBC. He is a green revolution guy. He's never served in elected office. His replacement of the minority government means that he is the new leader of the party that is competitive. According to the BBC, the governing Liberals have seen a remarkable political turnaround since Trudeau's exit, as Canadians have been galvanized by President Trump's trade threats and support for annexing their country. At the beginning of the year, Pierre Poilievre was ahead 20 points in the election polls. Today, he is tied with the Liberals. So are you going to get more from Canada with Pierre Poilievre as the prime minister than you're going to get from Mark Carney? The answer is yes. It turns out that politics has a lot of downstream effect.
Like, so very clear what he was saying there is that Canada is going to be great under Pierre Poilievre, not under Mark Carney. That is how the liberal machine works, though, right? We're going to accuse everybody else of doing the exact same thing that we're doing. We're going to make people fearful of those individuals spreading mis and disinformation, which is just another way of saying something we don't want you to hear with the way that word is thrown around these days. I'm honestly really concerned, and I don't mean to be too harsh on you here with this, because for all I know, you're doing all sorts of things that I'm unaware of, and if so, amazing, I love to hear it. But I also do receive so many messages, and no shame to these people because I understand it. I was in that exact same position as well just a few months ago. But what are you doing? There has been for far too long this radical ideological faction of society who thrives and survives off of how they are able to install fear into you and get their way by throwing temper tantrums. And you're so scared of what they could do. You're so scared of losing friendships. You're so scared of losing your job, of all of these things, that you would rather be miserable in silence than speak what you know to be true and to say what you think. And I think that we are at a very, very important moment right now where we need to stop being so afraid of what other people are going to do. It's one thing if you're out there just spouting all sorts of nonsense, but if you have facts and data to support what it is that you think, and that's why you think that, nobody can do anything to harm you because that is the truth. And the truth will always prevail in the battle of good and evil. Good always wins. It just doesn't feel like it at first because evil goes to really nefarious ways in order to get what it wants. And I really strongly encourage you to just start saying what you think. Stop self-censoring. Stop silencing yourself. I believe you're a good person in your soul. And if you have the best of intent, no harm, no real harm is actually going to come to you. I mean, even just take me for an example. I lost everything. I lost my career of 11 years. I thought that was going to be the end of me. I've lost friends. I've gotten into weird tiffs with family members over this stuff. And yeah, none of that has been pleasant. But look at the amount of people watching these views. Look at the comment sections. You are not alone. You really aren't. And I can guarantee you in your workplace, I can guarantee you in your friend group, there are like-minded people who, just like you, are too scared to say anything because they don't want to offend. And I get it. I get not wanting to offend. I get wanting to just be compassionate. It is like a blessing and a curse that many Canadians have that mentality. But if we don't stand up and just say what is right and what is true and expose all of this corruption and expose all of these lies that are hurting us, they're hurting our children's future, we are so doomed. If the Liberals get in for a fourth term, what's going to happen then to our economy? What's going to happen to the mental well-being of our citizens? How many Canadians are going to say, I'm not doing this anymore, and they're going to leave? How many more businesses are going to leave? You know, and could Mark Carney go ahead and pull some big switcheroo and go and reverse all of these policies? Maybe. It's unlikely, but maybe he could. Are you going to trust that? You know, history is the best example of what is to come in the future. So I'm taking a close, hard look at his history and the party's history, and I feel quite confident of my speculations of what is to come in the future if we have more of that. And I just really implore you to take the risk, be kind always, be compassionate. Yes, those are all wonderful things, and I believe that you do that and you have that. But we can't just be quiet about these things anymore. We need to use our voices. That's how the left has become so powerful. It's because they virtue signaled us into oblivion by convincing us to hate ourselves, by convincing other people to hate us for these things that you should be proud of and these things that you shouldn't hate anybody for. And it's all under the guise of getting votes and being in power and pushing their views onto you. Well, it's time that you kind of fight back against that. Because if you're just a sheep following the herd and then in private being true, you're still a sheep. And I'm well aware that these things are so much easier said than done. I know it. I've been through it. All of my close friends have been through it. And you need to reclaim your life back and your values again. No more of people stomping on you because they're more compassionate than you are, and you should feel ashamed and embarrassed for having the completely normal views that you have. Now, if you're one of those people who's like a big troll on the internet, I don't necessarily encourage that. I'm not a fan of that stuff, but there is certainly a way to get the message across that is kind and polite with the best of intention. That's the key right there, is the best of intention. You have good intention, you have everything. So make sure that your aim is high and everything that you're doing is with the purest of a heart, and nothing bad can happen to you. I really truly believe that. Anyway, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I'm Jasmine Lane. This is Over Opinionated. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, you are not alone. It feels lonely because nobody else is talking about it, but people are thinking it, and you gotta break that wall down, and eventually people will be talking about it again. I mean, look at what happened in the United States. And they were on the same trajectory as us, only ours is significantly worse due to the economical impact of all of these things that we've allowed by being silent. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. It means a lot to me. It really does. Like the video, comment your thoughts down below, and give me a follow on other social media platforms as well. I'll talk to you tomorrow.